Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet, Chapter 14, The Basement. The year is 1986. Henry headed down a paint-chipped stairwell, through a thick wooden door that opened on creaking hinges. The door spilled into a large expanse of sub-basement beneath the old hotel itself. The only illumination came from a handful of utility bulbs, hung like Christmas tree lights along the ceiling by large staples. A long tail of bright orange extension cord led the way. Stepping inside, Henry drew several deep breaths, feeling a chest-crushing wave of claustrophobia. The underground storeroom was packed. He could hardly comprehend the quantity of personal items stored here. A narrow path, shoulder-wide, wound through a forest of crates, suitcases, and steamer trunks, stacked as high as the ceiling, many rows deep. Some yellow, some blue, large and small, a thin veneer of dust coated everything. The belongings had been here untouched for decades. On first impression, the room looked like a second-hand store. There was an old Lexus bicycle, the kind Henry wished he'd had as a child. There were large metal buckets filled with rolls of paper and what appeared to be art prints. A 1941 Sears Roebuck order form jutted out from a box beside an old issue of Physical Culture magazine. A finely carved marble chess set was piled up in a wooden rice bowl. Aside from the parasol that it was brought up the first day, nothing looked even remotely familiar. But then, he couldn't be sure if the bamboo umbrella had been Keiko's or not. He'd seen it only in an old black-and-white photograph of her as a child. 40 years ago? Yet, as much as he tried to dismiss it as sheer coincidence, his heart told him otherwise. It was hers. Her family's possessions were here. Some of the things most precious to her were here, and he would find them. What was left of them, anyway. Henry eased down a small suitcase, popped the rusty clasps, and opened it, feeling like an intruder in someone's home. In the leather case was a shaving kit, an ancient bottle of Farnesian cologne, and a rat's nest of old silk neckties. The name on the inside of the suitcase read F. Arakawa, whoever he was. The next suitcase, a large leather number with a clear lucite handle, practically fell apart as Henry opened it. The fabric was damp and moldy from decades of humidity. Upon closer inspection, Henry saw it for what it was. The beaded pearls, silk-covered buttons. Lifting it out of the suitcase, he could see the gauzy white fabric was someone's wedding dress. Inside were a matching pair of white pumps and a lace garter. In a small hat box, tucked beneath the dress, was a dried wedding bouquet, brittle and delicate. There were no photos or other identification in the suitcase. Next, Henry hauled down an old Wenatchee Valley apple crate overflowing with baby things, bronzed shoes on a plaque with the name Yuki engraved on the base. Tucked beside the crate were a tiny pair of red galoshes. Mixed in were a few things of more than personal value: silver rattles, a silver tea set, the American kind, plus a rolled-up set of gold-plated flatware. Beneath the forks and spoons was a photo album. Henry sat on a leather stool and opened the dusty binder in his lap. There were photos of a Japanese family he didn't recognize. Parents, small children, many taken in and around South Seattle. Even photos of them swimming at Alki Beach. Everyone in the photos looked so serious. As Henry leafed through the album, he saw that there were blank spaces. Sometimes entire pages were empty. More than half the photos were gone. They'd been removed, leaving behind white squares where the hidden page had been preserved from yellowing in the wet Seattle air. Henry hesitated, then pressed his nose to the page, inhaling. He thought he had imagined the smell at first. Then he inhaled again. He was right the first time. The pages smelled like smoke.